So first of all, good afternoon. My name is Diego Gómez-Zará. Those who don't know me, I'm a PhD candidate at Northwestern University. And I'm delighted to present a work titled The Impact of Display and Diversity Information on the Formation of Self-Assembled Teams. And this work was awarded with an honorable mention at CHI. So we want to start talking about this case, if you saw it in the New York Times. In early December 2018, one of the most prestigious law firms in the United States proudly announced its new partner class on LinkedIn. So what happened is that people were outraged on social media because they saw this picture of 12 smiling attorneys who made partner. And all of them, as you can see, are white, and there's only one woman. And that proportion is far from the US Census demographics. 72% of the American population is white and 50% are female. So this poses a challenge to organizations seeking to leverage the benefits of diversity in teams. And despite the expanded training and diversity programs in organizations, workers' attitudes and behaviors towards diversity are hard to change. As social scientists have found, people often rebel against rules to assert their autonomy. When people are coerced to do something, they're likely to do the opposite, just to prove that they are able to make their own decisions. Can technology help to increase the formation of diverse teams? HCI researchers have developed visualizations and interfaces to promote diversity in information-related problems. Technologies can potentially serve to diversity goals by exposing people to ideas and people that they may not otherwise come in contact with. Can this visibility approach hold the key to forming more diverse teams and reduce homophily tendencies? Imagine when you're receiving an invitation from someone on social media platform to create a new group or just like to make a new friendship. So we will infer these new connections through multiple cues that the platforms offer. For example, their names, their pictures, job titles, companies, common contacts. So let's imagine now if the system displays a diversity score next to each potential contact. And this score shows us to what extent adding that prospective person will change the diversity of our group. Considering a system that displays diversity information to others, we ask the following question. Will displaying diversity information will help to form more diverse teams? And toward that aim, this paper explores the effect of highlighting the diversity of potential collaborators on the decisions people make about whom to work with. And we report 2 studies examining this question, where the diversity score feature was turned off and in another condition was turned on. To situate our work, we explored some studies related about diversity across the HCI and organizational behavior literature. And we had to recognize diversity is an important topic in several disciplines. And most definitions agree that diversity refers to salient differences among individuals. We use this characteristic defined by Harrison and Klein. They use diversity to describe the distribution of differences among the members of a unit with respect to a common attribute. It's not an individual aspect, it's just like aspect that the groups have and the teams have. And Harrison also, in another paper, he defined diversity at 2 levels. The surface level, which includes characteristics that are overt, immediately observable, and reflected in physical features. For example, age, gender, race, and ethnicity. On the other side, we have deep level variables, which includes non-observable differences among members. For example, attitudes, beliefs, values, status, etc. In order to explain diversity, there are 3 main theories that could explain why people are making such a kind of decisions. First of all, social categorization theory posits that individuals categorize themselves and others into groups, distinguishing them between similar in-group members and dissimilar as out-group members. The second theory is about similarity or attraction theory that posits that people like and are attracted to others who are similar rather than dissimilar. And finally, the information decision-making theory proposes that diversity possibly influences group processes and group functioning through the increase of information, skills, ability, and knowledge that diversity may bring. Overall, the literature provides several conceptualizations of diversity in which their support has been mixed. On the one side, we can see that the benefits are like the teams are more likely to be creative, to provide more innovative results, combine knowledge, combine points of view, backgrounds to solve problems. But on the other side, there are some problems. Teams are likely to face lack of cohesion, coordination, and communication. So what will happen if we show this score? We hypothesize that displaying diversity information will induce users to choose others who are most similar to them rather than different. And from these previous studies, there are some reasons to believe this. First, people are likely to choose as teammates those who are more similar or familiar to them. Second, choosing similar to others allows us to reduce uncertainty associated with work with people who are different from us. And also, people who may have unconscious bias against working with people who are different from them. So we run a study, an experiment, and we use a platform called My Dream Team that enables users to form their own teams. People are sending invitation messages, they can check profiles, they can search for teammates, and they can create new teams just like by accepting or declining invitations. It's a very organic process. So in this study, we added this idea, like when users were searching for potential teammates, the system calculated a diversity score for each potential teammate based on demographic attributes and project skills. In the control condition, the score was calculated but not displayed to the user. In the treatment condition, we added this progress bar showing to what extent adding a person to the team will increase the diversity. So to compare how teams were assembled in both projects, we used participants' invitations on the systems as a time-never measure. And the systems track when participants invited a specific person based on a recommendation result. In this case, you can see the button invite. If the user clicked on that, we count it as 1, otherwise as a 0. And we consider as an important independent variable the diversity score, that it was ranging from 0 to 100. 0 was like the person was very similar to the team, and 100 was like, has different skills and attributes that the team already has. So we conducted 2 studies. The first one was in an on-site undergrad class at a university in the United States. We have 46 students who attended this class. 22 were female and 24 were male. And the mean age was 21 years old, and 9% of these students were international. And this class, they had to work in teams for 2 projects sequentially. And in the first project, they assembled teams. They didn't see the score. For the second project, they saw the score when they had to create these new teams. And for this, we added some variables. We have more descriptions about these formulas in the paper if you want to check out this. But mostly we use their age, gender, the cultural diversity using nationality as a proxy, and the project skills in order to calculate this diversity score. The system averaged these diversity metrics to compute one single score and to show it to the users in the interface. So to explain what happened, in the first case, we tried to control what happened with the invitations, people who saw and who decided to invite and those who they decided to not invite. So in the control condition, we found no difference in the diversity score between those who were invited and those who not. But people who in the treatment condition, we can see like the big difference in terms of people who were invited have less diversity score, and those people who were excluded have higher diversity scores. People were 42% less likely to invite someone who will increase diversity than someone who will reduce it in the treatment condition. To test this hypothesis more empirically, we use logistic regressions to predict teammate selection. And the idea here is like each person represents like this random effect, since each user could just run several queries. So we try to control in terms about the users and see what was the overall pattern. So as an independent variable, we use the recommendation rank, the potential candidate, where was the candidate in the list. Also, if they were friends, if they worked in the past, the diversity score, the treatment, and finally, gender morphology to see if they were from the same gender. So after running this model, we found that individuals who will increase team diversity were almost 42% less likely to be invited when the diversity score was displayed. And we also found for this specific group, the participants were 2 times more likely to send an invitation to someone who was from the same gender. Either was just like the treatment or control condition. In our second experiment, we conducted the same experiment in an online class with 70 faculty members at a university in Argentina. And the courses have to assemble teams for a specific project. And we have more females than males in this case. And the average age was 43 years old, and there were no international faculty who took this course. We added more diversity attributes. In this case, we added faculty diversity to what school they belong. work status in this time, like what they were the time dedication at this university, and also their academic position based on their tenure. The same idea, we didn't find any difference in diversity score between those invited and those who were not invited in the control condition. You can see that the scores are very similar in terms of the diversity of those who were invited and those who were not invited. But when we see in the treatment condition, people who were invited have lower scores, the diversity, compared to those who were not invited. And in this sense, users in the treatment conditions were 49% less likely to invite someone who will increase diversity than someone who will reduce it. Similar to the previous one, we found that individuals who will increase team diversity were 41% less likely to be invited when this score was displayed. As a difference, we didn't find any gender homophobic effects for this group. Some discussion and also to highlight some of the main ideas of this paper. First of all, we found empirical evidence about how people's tendency for similarity can be exacerbated by showing them these metrics, especially about showing them the differences between themselves. Prior literature has been clear on how social networks, stereotypes, and prejudice affect other people's in terms of our choices. But this paper also tries to extend in terms of saying, like, also systems can promote or can exacerbate those differences and those aberrations in terms of the similarity between users. Also, this paper shows the effects of grouping and like several dimensions of diversity into a single score. We aggregated the score, like all these metrics, in one single number, and there are some effects about that in terms of how the system calculates diversity among users and also how users will be aware of their differences. Grouping several dimensions of diversity into a single score could be very simplistic. So for our reason, it's important to discuss how at the moment of just designing those metrics could be better displayed in terms of we can just take several situations or conditions that could be increased or can be helpful for assembling a team. Diversity could be operationalized in a more holistic way rather than as some attributes. And also this shows the consequences in terms of displaying those metrics could affect the team composition, creating less diverse teams as we were attempting to do it. Finally, the result of these papers provide guidance on how HCI practitioners should design papers that promote conscious reflections. In their sense, like users should think about what is best for them or what is best for the team. So for example, one thing could be priming participants about the benefits of diversity, showing them that diversity could increase the creativity and the innovation of the results, things like that, before they start creating those teams. The use of alternative languages, such as framing people's diversity as a strength or complementary skills, because the label also can make a huge effect on that. Finally, the system could assess participant openness to diversity in terms of having those people who are more diverse to work with different people. Those could be brokers, and those can create and start assembling those groups, trying to be a moderator between those extremes. Our final reflection claims that the emergence of diversity is not a mathematical aggregation process, but fundamentally a social process that requires communication, coordination, and commitment of their members. So for other reasons, it's important to discuss how technologies can facilitate those processes. We want to thank Sabine Brunswicker and Sylvia Andreoli for helping us to conduct these experiments, especially Anup Sawan and Shang Li, who developed this platform. Thank you so much, and I will be very happy to answer your questions.